Okay, here we go again. Wait for everybody to come back now. Aye. Give everybody a few minutes to get back in here and we'll get going again. If everybody comes back, that is. Yep. Don't be strangers. Do post comments to let me know you're back. I'll give it until 6:45, and then we're going to boot everything back up. That'll give everybody a chance to get back in here. Hi, Shadow Deist. So what happened? Okay, so again, I haven't done a 7thCast in 2 weeks. This would have been week 3. And so 8th forgot that I stream on Saturdays because it's been so long since I've done one. And he had an issue with the puppy. I'm not going to go into any details. It wasn't like really mind-blowing emergency or anything. But since the pandemic, 8th does not always adhere to social norms when it comes to attire. And I've had some issues where he's come into the room after having taken his evening shower and, he's wrapped in a towel or he's got boxers on and nothing else, etc., etc. And he either just bursts through the door Kramer style, or he'll knock twice real fast and then open the door without waiting for me to say, come on in. And I wasn't going to have my 18-year-old son potentially mostly unattired come walking in during a live stream and then have that, saved on the server forever. So I shut the stream down, reminded him of what I was doing, and then went and addressed his issue, and now I'm back. Pain in the ass, but it is what it is. Welcome to Fatherhood 101. It's hard enough to at my age to remember to always refer to him as 8th when I'm online, so as not to get his real name out there. The minute he knocked, it just dawned in my head, I have no idea if he's dressed or not. And so I reached up and, covered the camera up. Because I don't need that on here. Sure, he's of legal age now, but still. So, there you go. So I'm back. Crisis averted. And we are back to streaming. I thought the Snyder Cut was night and day better in every conceivable way than Justice League, as they are calling it. Night and day improvement. No, I did not. I did not stream last week's at least. It was fantastic. I didn't care for the fact that it's not in widescreen. But other than that, once you start watching it, you stop paying attention to it. You know, it's not having to do any post-production panning like in old 4x3 movies. It's not having to do any of that because he's got everything in frame. And I just really enjoyed it. The music is better. The CGI is vastly improved. You actually care about the characters now. It takes its time building up the backstories for all the characters and catching you up to the ones that you'd already seen backstories for. The ending is so much better. Just everything about it. Everything about it is just done so much better. The question you have to ask is whether it's worth signing up for HBO Max to see. Now, they've already announced that they're releasing a 4K Blu-ray of it sometime here in the upcoming future. But if you're not wanting to wait for that, is it worth signing up for HBO Max? I would say yes, but that also depends on whether you liked Man of Steel, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and the extended director's cut of Batman vs. Superman. If you only liked Wonder Woman, then, you know, you may like this, you may not. I'll say this, in this version, Wonder Woman kicks ass. She is straight up killing bad guys. Like the redone scene of the terrorist attack in Paris. She's like slinging guys up against the wall and there's just a blood stain where she's just splattered them up against the wall trying to save the kids and everything. She's got no F's left to give. She's straight up and one guy she hits with that attack that she's got and it blows the whole side of the building off and all that's left of him is his hat. It's brutal, man. It's an R-rated movie. There is on-screen death, blood, and F-bombs. It's not really a kid's movie. And it's all the better for it. It's a good movie. It's literally like if you took the best of the animated DC films and made it into a live-action film, that's what Justice League is now. None of this watered down trying to be like Marvel crap. It's a superhero film for adults. If that makes sense to you. And I would love to see them complete the story because the direction they're going with it is Injustice. It's going in the Injustice storyline where something really bad happens to Lois Lane and it drives Superman nuts and it leads to this post-apocalyptic future where everyone's trying to stop Superman. That's the direction it's going in. They're setting up Apocalypse, Darkseid mixed with Injustice. That's where they're going with it. And I'd love to see him finish it. I would love to see him finish it. But, and you'll notice I'm not going to any great super details about things here, simply because I don't want to spoil it for any of y'all that haven't already watched it. But Me and Eighth liked it so much that we have both watched it twice now, and I'll probably watch it again tomorrow. It's just phenomenal. And what's really impressive is to sit and, well, not impressive, but what's mind-boggling is to sit and watch it, having already watched the Justice League, and seeing all the things that Whedon cut out and all the bullshit that he put in to replace it, to get it up to 2 hours. Like the whole Russian family thing. You know, the one Russian family that was still living next to that nuclear plant. You know? That sidetracks Superman and the Flash and takes them mostly out of the fight. For no reason. Other than to add another lame comic relief joke. There's so many amazing things that Whedon cut out that it boggles the mind why. Like, after the fight where Wonder Woman stops the terrorists in France, she stops to comfort the kids that she just rescued and to make sure they're all unhurt. And one of them is scared to death, and she gets down on one knee and she has this little heartfelt conversation with this girl. It's only like a 2-minute scene, and Whedon cut it out. Why? And this also has to show you how much attention Whedon wasn't paying to what had already been filmed. Because you have this scene where Wonder Woman stops these terrorists in France. And then in the Whedon version, you have Batman and Wonder Woman get in an argument, and Batman accuses her of hiding from humanity for 100 years. When she had just in front of numerous witnesses, stopped a hostage situation in France. But she's been hiding from humanity for 100 years. That's Whedon writing for you. It just goes to show that Avengers 1 was the exception, not the rule. It's like after I got done watching the Snyder Cut, I got angry about what I paid to see at a theater. When I first saw it the first time, I was like, okay, well, they tried to lighten it up and everything. But again, at that time, we had been told that this was Snyder's vision and that it had been his intention to try to make things more light and fun with the third one. And that Joss Whedon had just come in to do the post-production touch-ups and a couple of little reshoots, and that's it. Then we come to find out he remade 80% of the movie. And the saddest part is that everyone that abandoned this series after Batman vs. Superman, if you watch Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Wonder Woman, and then Justice League, this Snyder Cut of Justice League, if you were to watch them from beginning to end, starting with Man of Steel, all of the complaints that people had about Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman make sense by the end of this movie. Because what you understand about Man of Steel is that that's not the Superman of the comic books that everyone remembers. That's someone that's actually learning to be that and is unsure of himself and his place in the world. And by the time you get to the end of Justice League, that's when you get the Superman that everyone has wanted to see. The whole storyline is one long progression of Kal-El. This movie makes Cyborg into a character you actually care about. In fact, he's really the main character of the movie because everything revolves around him. Batman comes across a lot more relatable and understandable as far as what has driven him to the way he is now, And it ties it actually into the Dark Knight Returns storyline by the end of the film. I'm not going to say how, it's just a brief little scene, but it ties right into the Dark Knight Returns. The Flash is a lot less annoying, and he gets treated so much better in this film. So much better. He's integral to the plot. He's integral to how they save the day at the end. Whereas he was a side note during the climax of the original version. But in this one, he's the one that saves. Well, I'm not gonna spoil it. Let's just say that you will view the Flash in a whole other light once you get to the end of it. If you liked Man of Steel, you kind of liked Batman vs. Superman, especially after seeing the extended cut that put all of the stuff back in that they cut out that makes all the other stuff make sense. Man, Warner Brothers. If that's true for you, but you hated Justice League, you've got to rewatch it now. It's night and day. It's almost like a completely different film. It is the Lord of the Rings of superhero films. It's just epic as all hell. You've got to watch it. Yes, my only complaint, aside from the 4:3 ratio, is it's a Zack Snyder movie. You guys know what Zack Snyder movies look like. They're visually mind-blowing, but the man loves his slow-mo. And this is a 4-hour movie. There's lots of slow-mo in this movie. And in some cases, there's slow-mo where you don't even understand why the scene you're watching is in slow motion. One example. There is a scene where Lois Lane is coming out of a Starbucks type place and she's just bought coffee. So you have a slow motion scene of Lois Lane walking out a door of a coffee shop with coffee in her hand, sees that it's raining, slow motion opens her umbrella, and then slow motion walks down the sidewalk in the rain. Why? Why? What does that add to that scene? If you can get past that, you're good. You're good. I only had 2 complaints. Too many slow-mo scenes and the aspect ratio. For me, it's a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 without question. Eighth likes it better than Endgame. That ought to tell you something. I'd say it's on even footing with Endgame. Eighth liked it better than Endgame. But Eighth really likes Superman and Batman. So, yes, Darkseid is basically the DC's answer to Thanos. It's just that in the Marvel movies, Thanos has a reason for what he's doing. He thinks he's doing the right thing. Darkseid's just an evil son of a bitch that wants to dominate everything. He's the all-encompassing ultra super bad. He's more like Doctor Doom if you made Doctor Doom an alien and cranked his power level up to 11D. It's a different story when you're talking about Thanos in the comics, because in Thanos in the comics, he wanted to do the snap just to impress this woman that he wanted to be with, who was the angel of death, Lady Death or whatever. They changed that for the movies and made it that he felt that he was doing what was best for the universe after watching his planet die. And so basically, if you think about it, Thanos was like Jor-El only taking Jor-El's logic of using resources and overpopulation and all these things to the wrong extreme. Thanos is like what Jor-El would have been if Jor-El had listened to Zod, kind of thing. But Darkseid is just I'm the most powerful thing on two legs, and I deserve to own the universe, and I'm going to. That's Darkseid. No, I don't think 4 hours is too long at all. When you watch the movie, it doesn't feel any longer than Endgame. It feels like a 3-hour film. But it's 4. And it's split up into chapters. So it's easy for you to, like, if you want to, stop it, go do something else, and come back because you know what chapter you left off on. Yes, I saw the Suicide Squad trailer. It looks fun. I especially like the scene where the shark dude had a guy by both arms and was like, "Num nums." Yeah, that I got tickled by that. Remember all that money they wasted on removing Henry Cavill's mustache? Yeah, none of those scenes are in this one. They cut all that out. And the thing of it is, there were already versions of those scenes that Snyder filmed. Whedon reshot them to change the dialogue and throw in these really bad, corny jokes. I'll give you another example. The scene where Superman and Lois first land back on the farm after he's resurrected. In the Joss Whedon version, she goes, "You smell good," and he said, "Did I not before?" This is the original version, and he says something, and it's the first time he has said something to her since he resurrected, and she says, "You spoke," and he said, "Did I not used to before?" Joss Whedon just had to have some kind of a little dialogue change in there. Why you would change that to, "You smell good"? And there's other things. There's a reference to the Atom in there. DC's version of Ant-Man, the Atom. He's in the movie, but he's not the Atom yet. He's just a scientist, but he's in the movie. Martian Manhunter is in the movie. A different Green Lantern is in the movie. He's one of the kookier, weirder looking ones from the comics, but he's in there. And Darkseid is in the movie. In this version, when you have the flashback to the first time they came to Earth trying to use the mother boxes, in the Joss Whedon version, it was Steppenwolf leading that attack. In the Snyder Cut, it's Darkseid. And so you get to see Darkseid kick some ass, and then Hercules and Ares and the Atlanteans and the Green Lantern and all these others kick his ass, and he hightails it off the planet. But in the Joss Whedon version, because they wanted to really downplay the Darkseid thing, they changed it where it was just Steppenwolf, and it's just so much better. And not to knock Danny Elfman, I did like in the Whedon version where he incorporated the original John Williams Superman score and his original Batman score into the movie, but this soundtrack is so much better. It's got a little bit too much of the Icelandic girl singing crap in the background. It's got a little bit too much of that, but otherwise it's night and day. Everyone has their own distinct theme. You recognize it when you hear it, and it's just I'm excited just thinking about watching it again. I liked it that much. Superman, once he becomes himself again and he puts on that black suit, you don't get a tremendous amount of screen time of Superman being Superman like in the Joss Whedon one, but God, he kicks so much ass compared to what happened in the Whedon cut. He damn near kills Steppenwolf just on his own and doesn't even break a sweat doing it. But in the end, what happens to Steppenwolf becomes a 3-step process of Superman, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman taking care of business together as a team, which you didn't get that as much in the Joss Whedon version either. It's just so much better. So much. This is unprecedented. It is. Things in Hollywood will never quite be the same after this film. It's. I can't say enough good things about it. Do you think the anti-life equation is better than the Infinity Gauntlet and Stones? Not really, because the movie doesn't really give you a lot of explanation about what the anti-life equation is or how it works. It just basically explains that it would give Darkseid the power over life and death across the universe, and that's pretty much all it says. Whereas at least with the Marvel films, it explains what the Infinity Stones are, what the Infinity Gauntlet is, what it can do, etc., etc. This, it just kind of hints at what the anti-life equation is. But I mean, I don't think anyone would want like a 5-hour version of this film to put in more exposition explaining it better. It explains it, but it doesn't spend near as much time as Marvel did setting up the stones. So, you know, I just loved it. And the only reason that I can think of as to why you would hate it is if you really hated Man of Steel and you hated the director's cut of Batman versus Superman. But again, if you watch those back to back and end it with the Justice League Snyder Cut, you will understand why Superman was the way he was in the first two. You will understand why Bruce Wayne is the way he is now. You'll understand a lot more than you did going into Joss Whedon's version of the film. And it doesn't have this awkward, shoehorned in tone change where the movie's trying to be a Marvel film. All of that is gone. There's still some humor, but it's not crappy humor like what Joss had thrown into it. Like the scene where he goes to see his dad in prison. That scene's still in there, but you don't have the part where he's signing in and he draws that funny face on that guy's face. That's gone. You know, stupid stuff like that's been removed. And it sets up so many films. It sets up, of course, Justice League 2 and 3. It actually sets up the Aquaman movie that we did get. It sets up the Flash movie, and it sets up a Ben Affleck Batman film where he would have been taking on Deathstroke. So you know, it sets up a whole ton of shit. It's just a matter of whether or not Warner Media will realize that people want to see that stuff and at least make it as HBO Max exclusives, if not theatrical releases. How much money was wasted on needless reshoots? I think when they gave it to Whedon, they pumped another $100 million into it just to cut it in half and put in a bunch of bullshit. And all that crap where you'd go from healthy Ben Affleck to fat Ben Affleck to back to healthy to back to fat. That's all gone. There's only one scene where you'll notice a visual difference in how Affleck looks, and that is the prologue at the end, where he meets Martian Manhunter. You can visibly tell that he has lost weight from the last scene that you see him without his mask on to that scene. But then again, the prologue does not establish how long it's been between the end of the actual movie and when that prologue scene takes place. So, it's not really that jarring. Let's see here. 7th, should I watch the latest Godzilla and Kong movies before I see God? Yes. You need to watch. You don't need to watch the first Godzilla that much. But I would go ahead. I would watch Godzilla, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and Kong Skull Island. If you haven't already watched them. I would watch those before watching Godzilla vs. Kong next week. Flash does stuff in this that he didn't do in the other film. Like in the scene where they go to rescue the scientists and whatnot in like the underground tunnel system. There's a scene where the Flash helps a bunch of people escape, and then there's an explosion or something, and a bunch of concrete comes falling down, and Flash zips up in the air, and all you see is like this bluish smoke and like hints of his body knocking these things of stone out of the way so they don't hit any of the people he just rescued. And it's a really cool effect. I like the way they handle Flash and his super speed in this better than any other movie I've watched where there's a super speed character. It's just really cool the way they handled it. I don't know if I like the way he actually runs too much, where he's waving his arms like this, and I don't know if I like that all that much, but the actual effects they use to pull it off, top notch. 7th, do you think downloading Switch games on Switch is only viable if you have huge SD cards? I wouldn't buy digital games on Switch if I didn't have a massive SD card in there. What's the point? Why did Sony make a Vita if they weren't going to support it? Well, they did support it at first, but when it didn't take off the way they did, they gave it a year and they abandoned it. The first year of the Vita's existence, there was a lot of good Sony games that came out for it, but the stuff didn't sell the way they thought it would, and they were like, well, okay, we'll just let the third party we'll let them be the ones putting out stuff for this. We're not going to waste money on it. So they finished up with a handful of games that were still in development, and then when those were done, that was it. That was it. Speaking of which, it's 7 o'clock. We got 2 hours remaining. There have been 0 donations. Thoughts on Sony possibly buying Konami? Well, lately there have been rumors of Sony buying Konami. There's been rumors of Microsoft buying Konami. So I don't really want to speculate in either direction. I think considering the history that Sony's had with Konami, Sony would make more sense. But, it's also possible that Konami is not looking to be bought at all and instead are just looking to license out their IPs so that, Sony pays them up front for the rights to make Metal Gear games, that kind of thing. I think that would be based on what we know, that would be more likely than somebody buying them outright. In my mind, if Microsoft was going to buy a Japanese developer right now, the one that would be in their crosshairs would be Sega, because they have a 20-year history with Sega. Well, mostly a 20, because they started working with them back on the Dreamcast, so 20 plus year history with Sega. There's a lot of positive business that's gone on between the two of them. So if they were going to buy, reach out trying to buy a Japanese company, I would say the one that would be most receptive to it would be Sega. No, I've not seen the Project Blue Book series. 7th, did you talk about the PSP, PS3, and Vita store possibly shutting down? I don't really care. I don't really care enough to talk about it. Because the main thing, yes, they're shutting the stores down, but the main thing would be, can your system still connect to the network and sync trophies? It doesn't matter if the store is gone, as long as the system can at least connect to PSN and sync the trophies, there's no worries. There's no worries. Because that's the big thing that everyone's complaining about. Oh, what if my CMOS battery dies and then I can't sync the clock to the network? I won't be able to play any games. Well, as long as it's still able to just connect and sync trophies, then that solves that problem. And that, I can't imagine that would take too much on Sony's side to be able to maintain that. Otherwise, you open the system up and you swap the CMOS battery out. Now, there is one system that depending on the model of PS4, one of the models of PS4, that's a little bit more complicated than the average person could do. But for the other systems, it's not that big of a deal. I liked Training Day, but I didn't like it enough to where I'd want to watch it more than once. I saw it, I liked it, that was it. For me, it's not a movie that caters to repeat viewings. Thoughts on rumors that PS5 is going to go full backwards compat? If they do that, I see them doing it through PS Now, not through actual physical put the disc in and run it backwards compatibility. I don't see that happening. I would imagine that they're revamping PS Now to make it more similar to Game Pass right now, and that when they do that and they announce it, if they're going to have additional backwards compat beyond PS4 at all, that's when it'll happen, and it'll be announced through PS Now, probably with some new kind of a combo package where you pay for PlayStation Plus and PS Now in one monthly fee. A 7th, Astrobot might be a better game than Mario Odyssey. Your thoughts? Can't agree. I do love Astrobot, but there's not near as much content in that game as there is in Mario Odyssey. There's just not. Are you going to watch Invincible on Amazon? Yeah, I'll give it a shot. That reminds me. That's another thing. Compared to watching Justice League so far, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is not impressing me at all. I don't like the story so far. I don't like the villain that it's setting up so far. I just really couldn't care less at this point. I know it's only 2 episodes in, but it is just not gripping me at all. Seventh, I watched The Man from U.N.C.L.E. the other day. That's a fun... I still haven't watched Man from U.N.C.L.E. I mean, I've seen the original show when I was a kid, but I have not seen the movie. With who was it? Armie Hammer and Henry Cavill. I haven't seen it yet. Have you experienced any significant defects with the PS5 yet? I've heard of USB outlet problem. No, not a single issue have I had with it. And we have 2 of them. And neither of them have had any issues. We've had no issues with the controllers. Nothing. Nada. Zip. Thoughts on Wings making his wife cry on stream? Couldn't care less. I don't watch Wings. I don't care what he does. He's white trash. He doesn't interest me at all. Never watched him. Never will. Do you think Armie Hammer is a cannibal? I don't know. I mean, he has some interesting opinions, let's put it that way. Thoughts on Switch Pro being $400? We haven't confirmed anything yet, so I'm not going to have any thoughts on it until it's confirmed. We need a Daredevil season 4. I wouldn't mind that show continuing. The other ones don't care about, but Daredevil I'd like to see continue. and at least, turn it into like a Disney Plus exclusive movie series instead of a regular show. Looking good, 7th. How's 8th and Alex doing? Alex is very active. We took her to the vet and got her dewormed. And one of the side effects of that deworming medication is it'll make your puppy hyper. And so she will go for a solid hour. And then she'll just kind of lay down wherever she's at. And then she's asleep for 2 hours. And then she'll wake up and she'll be hyper again. And then she's asleep for 2 hours. It's been an adventure. Did you ever think we would see the day where the younger generation is trying to cancel the older generation's favorite music rather than the other way around? Well, I mean, that's just the world we live in now. These kids were told that they were the center of the universe by their parents and by their professors, and their professors have filled their heads full of full of stuff about how they feel the world works and the way the world is. And so these kids come out of college entitled as hell, thinking that everything is owed to them instead of having to earn it. And then they get out in the real world and realize that they've been lied to, and they get pissed about it. They're not going to take it out on their professors. They're not going to take it out on their parents. So they take it out on the world instead, through any target that they can vent that anger through. And that's why we're in, the world that we're in now. American Psycho over Dexter, which is better? American Psycho is one movie. Dexter is a series. They're not really comparable. And American Psycho, leads you to where you're not 100% sure whether everything that you just saw actually happened or not. Whereas with Dexter, it's really happening, which unfortunately also means that he fled to become a lumberjack, but is what it is. 4 months after launch, I had to get a replacement controller for my DualSense. The R2 trigger spring broke. I haven't had that issue, but then again, I knew, honestly, and I'm not saying this happened to you, Master Millions, but I think the majority of the people that are having the issues with the little spring in the trigger is because there are certain functions in certain games where it won't allow you to press the trigger all the way down, and people aren't used to that. So they get to one of these gameplay scenes where it's only going to allow them to press it halfway, and then it stops you, and they just keep pushing on it, trying to force it, and the spring pops off. I've heard of Life in a Tent, but I don't watch it. Apparently, the Dexter reboot's being done by the guy who did seasons 1 through 4. Let's hope so. One thing that pissed me off about the Snyder Cut is I wish Martian Manhunter would have joined the final fight instead of 2 small cameos. Agreed. 7th, should Marvel just release all 6 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier already? I hate how they're doing that. Yes, they should. They should do it the way Netflix does it and put it all out there so you can marathon it. But Disney ain't going to do that, because if they spread it out over 6, that means they're going to get 2 months of subscription out of you instead of 1. And that's why they do it the way they do it. To keep you on there as long as possible, because they know there are people that, they'll have a big release, they'll subscribe to watch it, and then they cancel it. And then they wait for the next big release, and they subscribe, and they watch it, and then they cancel it. And that's why Disney doesn't allow you to marathon stuff. Well, Chris, that's your own fault, man. That's your own fault. If you're going to let the actions of other people stop you from enjoying a film that you should watch and enjoy, that's on you, not them. Seventh, did you like the movie Ex Machina? I haven't watched it. Actually, yeah, I did watch it, and I had already seen a movie prior to it that I can't remember. I think it was called Machine or something like that, and very similar plot but different tone, like totally different tone, but very similar plot. But I liked that one better than I did Ex Machina. But that's also because I watched Machine first. Machine is a lot more gritty. It has more action in it than Ex Machina. It's yeah, it's a good movie. I think it's called Machine. I can't remember, but it's the same general plot. Same general plot. Trying to think if I've watched anything else that was really cool lately. I watched a horror comedy on Amazon the other day, and it was called Bloody Hell. And it was a lot of fun. It's about an ex-military guy who stops a bank robbery, but one of the hostages gets killed, and they blame him for that, and so he gets thrown in jail for 8 years. He gets out of jail, and he's become sort of a celebrity where the paparazzi won't leave him alone because he's become a cult hero for stopping the bank robbery. And so he decides, I'm just getting out of the U.S. and I'm going to a foreign country where nobody knows me for a while. So he hops on a plane to Finland. The minute he gets to Finland, he gets knocked out and kidnapped, and he wakes up chained to the rafters of a basement with half of his leg missing. And that's all I'm going to tell you about it. But it's a dark horror comedy, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really fun film. And again, it's called Bloody Hell. If you liked that horror comedy from a few years ago called Better Watch Out, it's made by the same people that made Better Watch Out. How's Texas? Is it back to 100%? No more. Yeah, there's no more cold weather. It's back up in the 70s. Would you say you're more of a movie watcher than Eighth? No, we both watch a lot of movies. Eighth watches more anime than I do, but we both watch a lot of movies. And like, for example, for the last 2 days, we've been marathoning that Hannibal TV show that was based on Hannibal Lecter and all that, because we never took the time to watch it before. And we've been watching that for the last 2 days. Camera's a bit high. There, that's better. Hold on just a second. Let me check something real quick. So, all right, Chris, see you later. We got 30 viewers in here. Ask questions, guys. I've covered the main topics for the day, so everything else for the rest of the show is Q&A. We haven't had any donations, so as of right now, there's like 90 minutes left to the show, so you've got 90 minutes to ask me whatever you want to ask me. Oh, and if you're curious, the reason I shaved the epic beard off was because I was the only reason I had it was because I was curious. I wanted to see how big of one I could grow. And for whatever reason, my beard hair gets down to about right here, and then it stops growing. So this was as long as I could get it, and it had gone several weeks where it was just staying here, and it wasn't getting any longer, and I'm like, all right, I'm bored with it now, and I shaved it off. Do you like Mario Sunshine? I never liked Mario Sunshine because it just didn't feel like a Mario game to me. It felt like it started out as something else and then they made it into a Mario game. You know, I wanted Super Mario 128. I didn't want, you know, Mario Water Blaster Pack adventure. You know, I just didn't like the gameplay style. Are you getting Outriders? No, I don't give a crap about Outriders. Don't give a crap about it. Based on the gameplay that I've seen, it's just a Gears clone, and I don't even like Gears. So why would I buy Outriders? You know, we're going to get Returnal when Returnal comes out, and we're going to get Ratchet and Clank when Ratchet and Clank comes out, and that's about it as far as stuff that I'm excited for. Oh, and the remastered Mass Effect trilogy. I'll get that when it comes out, and that's about it so far for this year. I didn't think Mario Sunshine felt like a Zelda game. It just felt like some generic 3D action game thing that didn't really feel like Mario at all, and that's why I didn't like it. Didn't feel like Zelda either. It felt, you know, just like your typical 3D platformer with a little bit of shooty in it. Just didn't like it. Only instead of shooting bullets, you're shooting water. Oh, Mortal Shell. Yeah, we're getting the physical edition of Mortal Shell for PS5 for 8th. I forgot about that one. I have it on pre-order for $39.95, I think it is. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. What else? Anything else interesting that's happened? Have you lost weight? Well, I lost a couple of pounds during the whole stomach thing, and one of the side effects of the stomach thing that I'm experiencing now is I get full faster, and I'm paying more attention to what I'm eating so as to not trigger another attack. So, you know, I've been eating a lot lighter lately. Like, for example, you know, we have a cheat day where I typically go and we get Whataburger or something. But Whataburgers are really big. So lately, the last cheat time that we had, I just got like a little regular McDonald's cheeseburger and a small French fry, like what you get in a Happy Meal, you know, instead of this big combo meal like I was getting at Whataburger. So. And whereas before I was having like, you know, 8 chicken wings with a big plate of fries, now I'm having like a little baked potato that's maybe this big and a grilled cheese sandwich. You know, I've just kind of really lowered my intake. So, you know, I've lost a few pounds, since I've lost a few pounds just since last Thursday, a week ago. This most recent Thursday, but not a tremendous amount. If you had to get your first PS5 game, what would be good? As of right now, Demon's Souls. I mean, Spider-Man Miles Morales is good, but it's not as long as the original game. Yeah, the graphics between PS4 Pro and PS4 and PS5 it's big difference, especially with the frame rate. What's the rarest NES game you own? I don't know. My phone's dead, so I can't look it up. I know I have one that's worth over $100. I think it's called SCAT, SCAT. I don't know if I have any that are more valuable than that one. Do you watch 60 Days In on Hulu? No. What are some of the best PS5 games so far? Most of the good stuff is multi-plat stuff. As far as exclusives, it's Demon Souls and Miles Morales. 7th, I'm playing Shining Resonant. Have you played? I didn't like that game, Nick. No offense to you, more power to you if you liked it, but I didn't. You know, I haven't been happy with a Shining game since Shining Force 3. That was the last Shining game that I played that I've enjoyed. Ever since then, anything that Sega or whatever have put out that's a Shining game, I haven't liked it. Do you like the Mafia games? I bought the remaster of the first Mafia, and I didn't quite finish it. I got maybe 75% of the way through it, and I was enjoying it at the time, but I haven't picked it back up since I switched over to PS5. Especially when I found out that currently it's not running at 60 frames per second on PS5, so I haven't gone out of my way to go back to it. Did you like Astro's Playroom? I platted it. I thought it was really great. I thought it was really great. Could have been a little longer. Could have been a little longer. Thoughts on Lion King for Super Nintendo? I didn't play the Super Nintendo version. I had the Genesis version. So, as far as, the gameplay, yeah, there's some unnecessarily annoying parts, but it's not like completely insurmountable or anything. I don't think it's as hard as people make it out to be, but yeah, there are some parts that will get on your nerves. Sony and Nintendo would never do a Smash Brothers PS All Stars crossover, so there's no point in speculating over it, Shadow. Is Mafia 1 and 2 repetitive like 3? I don't know because I've only played Mafia 1. I have Mafia 3, but I've only played 1. Thoughts on Kena Bridge of Spirits? I'm interested to play it, but at the same time, I've heard it's not that long. I'll play it when it comes out, but I've heard it's not that long. Yeah, 8th has his hands full keeping an eye on that puppy. And when puppies are that age, they are extremely curious. They want to sniff everything and experience everything, and they don't always put a whole lot of thought into their personal safety when trying to get to the things they're trying to investigate. So, little puppy that's only this tall might try to jump off of 8th's bed and potentially break its leg, so 8th has to keep an eye on it to make sure that it doesn't hurt itself. So he's got his hands full keeping his eyes on the pupper right now. I never played Scarface, the video game, because I didn't like the movie. And I didn't like the movie because there was never any point in that movie where I believed that Al Pacino was Cuban. He just sounded like Al Pacino doing a bad Cuban accent. And so, it took me out of the movie every time he opened his mouth. So I've never liked Scarface. I didn't like Carlito's Way for the same reason. I just don't think he does a good Cuban accent. Have you played Jet Li Rise to Honor on PS2? Long time ago. Long time ago. Don't really remember much about it. Just that it had kind of a weird control scheme. Who's better, Jet Li or Jackie Chan? I like Jackie Chan movies better, but I would say Jet Li's a better martial artist. Jackie Chan's more just a stuntman. Will Alex make a cameo in one of the streams? That's up to 8th. Alex isn't my dog. So that's strictly up to 8th. If 8th wants to bring her in here one day while I'm streaming, that's fine. Yeah, it's like I told you guys earlier. Uh, that dog will have, 30 minutes to an hour of hyperactivity and then it sleeps. And then it wakes up and has hyperactivity and then it sleeps. So, ever been to the Tomb of the Fallen? No. No. And I haven't been to the Unknown Soldier either because the Unknown Soldier is out of the country and I've never been out of the country. Favorite wrestler, I guess you're asking favorite wrestler of my era. That'd probably be a tie between Steve Austin and Bret Hart. Thoughts on Blade for PS1? I think it was a really good movie tie-in game for its day, but that it hasn't aged well at all as far as its controls and its camera and everything. But for its day, it was a better than average movie tie-in game. My retro game treasure box came yesterday. You want to see what I got? I got the Miniser 6-in-1 cart for Genesis, which is hilarious because I don't have a Miniser. I got Spy Hunter for PS2. And then this is the one I'm actually excited about. I got Spider-Man versus the Kingpin for Sega CD. There's only one problem. It's missing the manual. So, maybe when all of this virus stuff is over and I can go back to Retropalooza, maybe I can find someone that has a manual for it. I can just buy the manual to complete that copy. Otherwise, I'm just going to go to the CD cover, the CD cover project.net or whatever, and print me a copy of it and slip it in there. Do you think the Titanic movie from '97 is one of the most overrated movies of all time? I didn't think it was the greatest thing since sliced bread that so many other people did, but I really enjoyed it because I was always fascinated with the history of the Titanic when I was a kid. I don't know how many reports on it from like 6th grade to senior year. It was always my topic of choice whenever I was assigned to have to write a report on anything. It was Titanic. And so, I really enjoyed it from that aspect. Didn't really care anything at all about the romance aspect of it. Nowadays, when I go to watch it, I just fast forward to where they hit the iceberg, and then that's where I watch it from. I don't watch anything leading up to that. No, I don't think Home Alone 3 was underrated. I think that movie's terrible. What cartoons did you enjoy watching with 8th? We watch anime together. When he was little, he would watch stuff like Little Einsteins and all that, but I didn't watch those with him. The stuff that I watched with him was stuff that I'd pick out for him to watch, like Transformers and a little bit of G.I. Joe, a little bit of He-Man here and there, and just whichever ones he took a liking to, that's what I'd watch with him. So one of the ones that he liked was one that I picked out for him just because I looked online and it was compared to Voltron, and so I rented it and ripped copies of it because you couldn't buy it at that time. And that's an anime from 1997 called Gal Geiger. That used to be 8th's favorite anime, Gal Geiger. He loved it to death. He couldn't pronounce it, though, at that age. He couldn't pronounce Gal Geiger. He called it Gaga Go. I'd get home from work, and he'd be like, Daddy, I want to watch Gaga Go. I'd be like, all right, we'll watch it. Hindenburg or Titanic, which was more tragic? Well, they were both tragic in their own ways, but I think ultimately more people died on the Titanic, so by definition, Titanic was more tragic. especially when, it didn't have to happen. Titanic could have been prevented. The Hindenburg, uh, with that kind of ship, you're not going to be able to carry enough even parachutes for people to be able to jump out of it and save themselves, especially the way that it blew up and how high off the ground that it was. There wasn't going to be any saving those people, but Titanic was preventable in so many different ways. Even discounting avoiding the iceberg, there should have been enough lifeboats on that ship for everyone to get off of it safely, and they didn't have to have so many people that drowned simply because they didn't really believe the boat was sinking until it was too late. Did you like The Crimes of Grindelwald? Hell no, that movie was awful. Thoughts on director of John Wick making Ghost of Tsushima movie? We're excited to see it. No, I never watched The Sopranos. Titanic was a hoax. Titanic was not a hoax. You can, if you want to spend several $1,000s, you could go on a submarine and go down and look at it. Saying that Titanic was a hoax is a hoax. All this stuff about how it wasn't really the Titanic, it was the Olympic that sunk, it's been debunked a million times. Both of those ships have been visited by sub, and you can confirm by looking at the part numbers for some of the parts that they've pulled up from both ships that the one that they believe is the Olympic, and the one that they believe that is the Titanic is the Titanic. Stop believing every stupid conspiracy theory that gets thrown on the internet. You might as well be a flat earther at that point. Do you think Nintendo should focus on making new Nintendo games that are mature instead of making their usual stuff? I don't think it would do any good because the fan base that they have are adults that want to play the Nintendo games that they remember playing. So suddenly putting out a bunch of adult stuff would be more likely to pull in the younger crowd, but at the cost of alienating a lot of their hardcore fans. Do you have a favorite remaster or remake in video games? So far, probably that Demon Souls remake. It's really well done. It's extremely well done. Yeah, the Britannic, the one that got I get the Olympic and the Britannic mixed up. It's the one that got converted into a hospital ship and then sank. I think was it a U-boat that sank it? I think a U-boat sank it or something. Point being, they have every part that went into the construction of the Titanic and the Olympic had a unique identifier to that part, like a part number. And those part numbers were categorized to which ship it was on. And there was an instance where they had to take some parts off of the Olympic and put them on the Titanic. And because of that, there's this conspiracy theory that the Titanic was really the Olympic, and they just came in overnight one night before the launch and changed everything in the ship to be Titanic instead of Olympic, including all of the dishware that had Titanic written on it and everything. So in one night, they go in and they repaint everything to say Titanic instead of Olympic. They replace all the silverware. They replace all the custom sheets that have White Star Line and RMS Olympic on it. They do all of that in one night and then send out the Olympic as the Titanic. And that it was a big insurance scam. I've seen it before. It's been debunked years ago. I don't know why people still buy into that shit. What's my favorite film trilogy? Lord of the Rings. Did you play THPS 1 and 2 remake? I'm not sure. Yeah, the Costa Concordia. The thing about the Costa Concordia is you can watch footage of that. There's actual footage of it. Do you think we'll get a gameplay trailer for Ragnarok this summer? Maybe. Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Smith, we have it, but I haven't played it yet. I think 8th has played it, or he has expressed interest in playing it, because I bought it for him as a stocking stuffer for Christmas, but I haven't actually sat down and played it yet. Thought Star Wars. I never said Star Wars was my favorite film trilogy. I said the original trilogy was my favorite Star Wars trilogy, but I never said that Star Wars was my all-time favorite trilogy. My all-time favorite trilogy is The Lord of the Rings. Let me wet my whistle a little bit there. Oh, brother. Yesterday or was it today? Might have been today. I rewatched the HBO documentary about the life of Andre the Giant. If you've never sat down and watched that, it's only 90 minutes long, but it's really good. Activision is charging $10 to upgrade to the next-gen version of Tony Hawk. Well, screw that. It already runs at 60 frames per second, so what do I care? Did you like the Hobbit trilogy? I like the Hobbit trilogy, but not as much as Lord of the Rings. 8th is opposite of me. 8th likes the Hobbit trilogy better than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I don't know why, but he does. I'll tell you one thing, I'm not looking forward to that Amazon Lord of the Rings show if they ever actually do manage to get it out there. I could not care less. What do you feel is the best quality of a woman? Personality. The rest of it goes away as she ages, just like it goes away for you. And so when all of that is gone, when all the bells and whistles is gone, and who they are as a person is all that's left, you better hope that it's someone you like being around. So for me, personality, by far. Black Baron. Lord. Jeez. Frickin' Black Baron. Oh, 7th lives in North Carolina. You know what that means. Man, I gave him a talking to, didn't I? Oh, Lord. Favorite Leonardo DiCaprio performance? Catch Me If You Can. Favorite sweet? Probably just regular old Hershey's chocolate bars, which of course I can't eat anymore since I'm type 2. Did you guys, for you guys that live in the United States that can still eat candy bars, I'm assuming you've heard of the candy bar whatchamacallit. They first started making them back when I was a kid. Well, now they have a new whatchamacallit that has a layer of peanut butter added on top of it. And you know what it's called? A Who's a Watsits. You got whatchamacallit and Who's a Watsits. I shouldn't be laughing at that because that's the same as laughing at a dad joke, but I don't care. I saw the ad for it and it cracked me up. Seventh, what'd you think of Cyberpunk? It was okay. It was okay. You know, it was a first person action RPG. There wasn't anything revolutionary about it at all, though. Why was the film Titanic 2 even made? It's like an asylum film. It's like this low budget direct to video thing. It was never going to be good. That's what I was talking about, Shadow, when he said, Seventh's in North Carolina. You know what that means. How much money did you spend on your engagement ring when you got married? I don't remember. Wasn't a whole lot because I wasn't making a whole lot when I got married. I was making like $12 an hour back then. Your thoughts on Sony buying Evo Fighting? I don't know why they bought it. Because, right now we're still in a pandemic. Were they buying it on assuming that everything would be okay in a year or two? I mean, I don't really see why they invested in it, especially since Sony doesn't have any first-party fighting games. None. Well, Shadow Diaz is because I don't really care. People accuse me of stuff all the time. And, I don't waste a whole lot of time on it. I just prove it and I move on. Female celebrities that I liked that were before my generation. Elizabeth Montgomery from Bewitched. She was gorgeous. Oh, and I liked Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha on Bewitched. I liked the actress, I can't remember her name now, who's the original Morticia Addams. And DeCarlo, the actress who played Lily Munster. I liked those three. Now, of course, she was a little older by the time she did the Munsters, but I really liked her. Thoughts on the new Suicide Squad trailer? It looked pretty good. We'll see. What got you into Harry Potter? My wife got me into it. I was in. We had been the first one came out the year that we got married, or the year after, one or the other. And she insisted that I take her to see it at the theater. And right up until we got divorced, I had to take her to see every Harry Potter movie. And so, I just got into them because of watching them with her. And she bought all of the Harry Potter books. And so, I read them because they were in the house. Addams Family or Munsters, which is better? This will piss off Billy, but I like Addams Family better because it's darker. How do you feel about Randy Orton? I like the RKO out of nowhere memes from a few years ago. That's about all I can say about Randy Orton. Your thoughts on Sony buying Crunchyroll in jeopardy as U.S. Justice Department extends antitrust probe? Don't care. The only things that Sony could purchase that I care about are game studios. I don't care if they buy an anime studio. I don't care if they're buying fighting championships, car dealerships. I don't give a shit. If they buy a game studio, it interests me. Otherwise, I don't care. Nope. Not a bit. Why did Addams Family and the Munsters rip off Frankenstein? Well, Addams Family didn't really. They had a zombie for a butler. Lurch. The Munsters were able to rip off the first, the Universal Pictures version of Frankenstein because, if I'm not mistaken, the company that produced the TV show was owned by Universal at the time, so they weren't going to get away with that. The main thing that I liked about Tony Hawk Pro Skater more than anything else was the soundtrack. Got a video game that's got Dead Kennedys and stuff on the soundtrack. Yeah, I'm going to like it just for that. Just for that alone, much less getting into the gameplay. Love, love, love. So next week, Godzilla versus Kong. Eighth and I are looking forward to it. There's a couple of folks on my Twitter who somehow got into advanced screenings of it and have already seen it. And one of the things they said was, if you're a Kong fanboy, you might walk away a little disappointed. I don't know what that means because they wouldn't give spoilers, but I'm guessing that means that Godzilla does not have a resounding victory against... that Kong doesn't have a resounding victory against Godzilla. So, did you like Rocket Power? Rocket Power wasn't a thing. I was already an adult. I'm 46 years old. Rocket Power wasn't a thing when I was at the proper age to enjoy it. Seventh, what you were saying about that Amazon Lord of the Rings show, hopefully they don't try to make it into a game. Well, I feel that's what it's going to be. So, I'm not excited for it. I'd rather watch Season 2 of The Witcher. Season 2 of The Witcher is more my speed. I just got the plat. I bet you don't have Persona 5. Yeah, I haven't platted Persona 5. I got distracted by something else, and for whatever reason, I've never made it back to it. I'll get to it eventually, sooner or later, someday. But I haven't been doing a whole lot of gameplaying because I've either been sick or there's been the ice storm, or I've been tied up with stuff at work to where what little free time I do have, I don't feel like playing a game when I sit down. Ever seen swatting videos that happens to streamers? Yes, I've seen them. Oh. For the longest time, I thought the Lord of the Rings show was going to be a retelling of the books, but nope. I think it takes place before the books. I think it takes place in the Second Age. I think that's when it takes place. I just don't foresee it being good. I'm more of a Kong guy than a Godzilla guy. No, I'm not going to watch Godzilla in theaters. I'm going to watch it on HBO Max. Ninja Scroll was the first anime anything that I watched. Did you like it? Yeah, I liked it. My first anime was black and white reruns of Gigantor. Used to come on this local UHF station when I was a kid. I could barely get it in where I lived because I lived out in the sticks. But every now and again when the weather was good, I could get it tuned in just right, and that was my first taste of anime, was Gigantor. Do you like money heist TV? No, I don't like heist TV shows or movies. Oh, by the way, we got 1 hour left and there have been 0 donations. How could anyone root for Kong with Godzilla's atomic breath? Because Kong's a badass. He's got a higher level of intelligence and he has opposable thumbs so he can use tools. 7th, why doesn't Disney just put Raya and the Last Dragon on Disney Plus? Because they want you to pay $30 to watch it, that's why. Same as with Mulan. Thoughts on Super Mario Kart? I mean, you know, it's a kart racer. I've never been a huge fan of the kart racing genre, but then again, I've never been a huge racing game guy for the most part. You know, I liked Outrun when I was a kid. I liked Super Off-Road when I was playing against friends on the Genesis. But I never really got big into racing games. The only racing game that I ever got obsessed with in the entire history of gaming would just be Speed Devils on the Dreamcast, Hydro Thunder on the Dreamcast, and Burnout Paradise on the PS3. Yep. I love Burnout Paradise. To this day, I love that game. I love the soundtrack. You know, I don't even have to be going for any kind of goals or anything. I can just be, you know, driving around town just listening to the soundtrack, and I thoroughly enjoy myself. I used to have Smuggler's Run. I hated it. Are you hyped for Final Fantasy 16? Not especially. You know, I'm one of the old curmudgeons that still likes turn-based. 7th, do you think it's possible for a cartoon to be horror, or do you think most art styles would ruin the mood of the scare factor? It depends on the kind of horror they're trying to do. You know, there are anime out there that you could legit call creepy. But as far as like your traditional idea of horror with like jump scares and all that, doesn't really work all that great. But there are some anime out there that do have kind of a creepy vibe to them. Or at least a vibe that makes you uncomfortable a little bit when you're watching it. All right, see you later, Smith. Do you consider PS3 better than 360 now that it's past its lifespan? I always considered PS3 better than 360. What are you talking about? Turn-based ain't my thing. Well, to each their own. Did you like See No Evil with Kane? Not especially. Not especially. Just felt like another slasher film to me. And I got kind of burnt out on the slasher films even before the Scream movies came out. I was kind of over and done with slasher type stuff. Most nowadays, the horror that I'm looking for is stuff that sets a horror mood, like The Exorcist or, Insidious, The Grudge, stuff like that. Shadow, that's not really a question. That's more of a statement. Have you ever played Manhunt? Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like the controls. I didn't like the way it played. And I didn't think the graphics were all that great either. Didn't do nothing for me. Have you played The Evil Within? I've played the first one. I haven't played the second one. But a reminder, I'm not really into the survival horror genre. I think of all the survival horror games that have ever come out, the only two that I ever spent any serious amount of time on, as far as enjoying them, was the first two Resident Evils, but I hated the tank controls. Carrier on the Dreamcast, and oh God, what was that other one? Oh, Dead Space. Which do you like better, Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy? Final Fantasy. Do you remember the Herculoids? Yes, the Herculoids came on when I was a kid as a 3-part show. You had the Herculoids, you had the Space Ghost, and then you had these teenage space cops that had like a little sidekick with them, and they went all over space on these space motorcycles. I don't remember what they were called, but they were the third part of the show. So you got one episode of each every Saturday morning. Yes, I've played Sleeping Dogs. It was okay. It was okay. It was supposed to be True Crime Hong Kong or something like that, and it became Sleeping Dogs. But it started out as a new game in the True Crime series. Do you think the Last of Us TV series is going to fail? I have no idea. All we know about it is that it's going to have Oscar Isaacs in it. I think that's who it was. Is it Oscar Isaacs? No. Is it Oscar Isaacs, or is it the guy from The Mandalorian? I don't remember now. But all I know is that they announced who was playing Joel. And as far as like, they haven't shown any footage of it, what it's going to be like or anything like that. I don't even know if they've even started filming it yet. Yeah, I've seen a trailer for the Callisto thing. We shall see. We shall see. We've been told that before. That this is the successor to so and so. Yeah, we were told Mighty Number 9 was the successor to Mega Man, and look how that turned out. So, I'm reserving judgment until I play it for myself. And weekend's almost over already. That sucks. I need me a nice, long, lengthy vacation like the one I took in December. No, I did not like the Def Jam games. Not a fighting game enthusiast. No, I did not like Mighty Number 9. Eighth liked it more than I did, and even he would tell you that it wasn't that great. Do you think The Last of Us 3 will fail if Naughty Dog makes it? No. There will be people that still buy it, no matter what they do in it. Is 8th still here? I have no idea. 8th comes and 8th goes. Sometimes he's on for the whole thing. Sometimes he's in for 30 minutes. It's just 8th is 8th. 8th is as 8th does. Balan Wonderland is turning out to be a bigger flop than Mighty Number 9. Well, when I saw the first trailer of Balan Wonderland, I'm like, this looks like shit. So, your thoughts on Koei Tecmo losing the data to the non-Sigma versions of the Ninja Gaiden games? Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. That's as bad as Sega losing the original data to Panzer Dragoon Saga, and that's why you've never seen like a re-release or a remaster of it. Did you like the film White Chicks? Oh, God, no. I saw White Chicks as part of a double feature at a drive-in movie theater in North Carolina, and I hated it. I want to say the double feature was White Chicks and Catwoman. And so I'm pretty sure that was the double feature. And, it was two crappy movies. And I'm like, no. We used to love to go to the drive-in theater, and because, you paid hardly nothing. They had a better concession stand, and the concession stands were cheaper. And you got to sit and watch two movies. The only downside to it is that, the little speakers that you set in your window didn't work anymore. So the only way you could listen to the movie was if you brought a battery-powered radio to sit on your dashboard, or you ran your car radio all night, which of course 9 times out of 10 would drain your battery, and so you'd have to have the management come and jumpstart your car just so you could go home. But we loved going to the drive-in theater, and then it ended up going out of business because all these companies stopped putting their movies on actual film reel, and were just sending them with hard drives. And the drive-in movie theater couldn't afford to convert their projector to a digital hard drive based projector, so they went out of business. Really upset 8th at the time because he loved going to the drive-in movie theater. He thought that was the grandest thing when he was a kid. It would be nice if Sony gave an update to the slate. I don't think that's ever going to happen, Master Millions, because they put that into production at the same time that they did put into production the movie of Heavenly Sword, and the Heavenly Sword movie didn't do any good. It was released direct to video, and it bombed even on direct to video. And so I think they just quietly canceled that show and hoped that everyone would forget about it. Who has the best rogues gallery in comics, in your humble opinion? Probably Spider-Man. It'd either be Spider-Man or Batman. It would be, let's see here. What got you into Star Wars? My mom and dad taking me to see Star Wars in 1977 when I was like 3 years old. I was too little to even see over the seats, so my dad sat me in his lap while I watched Star Wars, sitting on his knee, and I loved it. And, a little while after seeing the movie, my cousin comes over to my house, and he has these Star Wars action figures. He has, Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, and I wanted them, but I didn't have any because we were poor. And my dad ended up asking, well, where did y'all buy those? And they said, we got them at this little turnstile thing at the Kroger. And so my dad threw me in the car and drove me up to the Kroger, and sure as the world, there was a whole bunch of Star Wars figures on this little turnstile thing right at the cash registers. And my dad looked at how much they were, and he was like, you can have 2. So I got Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, and those were my first Star Wars action figures. And it was all downhill from there. It's like the next couple of Christmases, all I wanted was Star Wars toys. 7th, I forgot to ask, did you hear Toys R Us is coming back? The last I heard, the Toys R Us return was just like there was going to be like a Toys R Us section at other stores. I haven't heard of them actually reopening, Toys R Us superstores anywhere. Did you watch the Blockbuster documentary on Netflix? No, I did not. No, I did not. Because I don't really care. Yes, renting movies was a weekend event for me for many years. We'd, drive up there on a Friday afternoon right after my dad would get off work, and we'd pick out some movies, and I might rent a game. But it wasn't, we didn't really go to Blockbuster that much. I didn't start doing Blockbuster until, I was an adult. When I was a kid, we went to locally owned video stores. We didn't go to Blockbuster. So I don't have the attachment to Blockbuster that other people do, because it wasn't really a thing for me when I was a kid. We went to Harrison Video and Video Park. We didn't go to Blockbuster. In fact, we didn't even have a Blockbuster until I was like 17 years old. Do you have a favorite Mandela effect? No, because it's bullshit. Seventh, that Toys R Us section was a long time ago. This is recent. Doomcock made a video about it. I don't care. Did you like the film Friday with Ice Cube? Yes. I liked the second one too. And the reason I don't care about Toys R Us is because where I grew up, they didn't even have a Toys R Us until I was like in the 7th grade. When I was a kid and you wanted to buy toys, you went to two places. You went to the Hills department store because they had the biggest toy section of any of the department stores, whether it be, well, when I was a kid, you didn't even have Walmart. You had Hills, you had Kmart, and you had Richway. Richway eventually became Target. So out of those three, Hills had the best toy department. So you'd either go to Hills or you'd go to Lionel Playworld. And Lionel Playworld was awesome. Wasn't quite as big as Toys R Us, but it was awesome. And I mean, they had KB toy stores at the mall, but they were tiny little things compared to Lionel Playworld. Lionel Playworld, compared to like the toy stores at the mall, was huge. And, you'd go to the G.I. Joe section, and it was just floor-to-ceiling G.I. Joe vehicles. And you go to the Transformers section, it was floor-to-ceiling Transformers, floor-to-ceiling Star Wars. They had a huge counter right behind the cash registers that ran the width of the store. That was their video game section. And you'd go in there, and of course this was back when the 2600 and the ColecoVision and all that were still big. And everywhere you looked, Atari, Coleco, and Intellivision games. Yes, I liked Friday and Next Friday. I don't think I've ever even seen Friday After Next. I actually don't think Doomcock is nearly as inaccurate as Mike Zero, because Mike Zero will literally, he just makes stuff up off the top of his head just to have a daily video out, and Doomcock doesn't do that. Doomcock will say, I've had an insider tell me this. This is just a rumor. I don't know if it's true. But he's not putting out daily videos every day, saying Kathleen Kennedy was fired. Kathleen Kennedy was fired. Do you know how many Kathleen Kennedy was fired videos Mike Zero has done? Doomcock is like 60 minutes compared to Mike Zero. Yeah, Walmart didn't even exist when I mean, Walmart existed, but they didn't have one where I lived. When I was a kid, if you wanted to go to Walmart, you had to drive almost an hour out to this one that was in Cleveland, and that was the only Walmart there was. There wasn't like a Walmart in every little town all over the outskirts of Chattanooga back then. You had to drive all the way out to Cleveland to go to a Walmart. Like I said, when I was a kid, you had Kmart, Hills, and Richway, and my favorite one out of the bunch was Hills, because A, they had the best toy department. It was really large for a department store of Hills' size. Hills was not that big of a department store. And two, when you walked into Hills, they had a separated lobby before you, kind of like with, almost like what Walmart does nowadays, where they have that little entryway that has a couple little prize games in it. Well, when you walked into Hills, they had actual arcade games like Rampage, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, whatever was the current arcade games of the day. And they had a concession stand where you could get hot dogs and popcorn and stuff. It was like a movie theater concession stand. And that was, none of the other department stores had that back then, so it was really cool. Plus, Hills was right next door to a locally run arcade on top of that. So I really liked Hills. When Hills went out of business, every Hills department store where I grew up was turned into a Big Lots. So, if you live around Chattanooga, Tennessee, and you go to a Big Lots, that used to be a Hills. In fact, the first time I ever bought a Nintendo game new in my own hometown was in a Hills, because they also had a really kick-ass video game section. They had a kick-ass toy section and a kick-ass video game section. And what I liked about the video game section was that right next to the video game section was the book section. So I'd go to the video game section and see what all the new games were, and then I'd walk one aisle down, and that's where the books were, and I'd look to see, what's the newest Stephen King, what's the newest Dean Koontz, etc., etc. Because I was reading Stephen King when I was, 11, 12 years old. I was reading on a collegiate level before I even got to high school. I think what you meant to ask, Clean Frame, was which is more disappointing, the prequel trilogy or the sequel trilogy? And for me, it's the sequel trilogy. Do you think J-Tech works for the government? He told me that a long time ago. He's full of shit. He's full of shit if he ever told you that. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. I had an opportunity to work for the government at one point. After I graduated with my second degree, they tried to recruit me for the CIA, working in one of their data centers. And I would have had I turned it down because it was going to include having access to classified government documents and stuff. And I didn't want that on me because I knew that meant that they were going to be watching every little thing that I did. And I just didn't want to live my life that way. And so I politely turned it down. Seventh, would you watch an episode of Ancient Aliens if someone paid you $50? Sure, why not? The second movie or the third movie of what, Clean Frame? You didn't even say. You just said, what's more disappointing, the sequel or the trilogy? Are you talking about in any series, which is better, the second or the third movie? Doesn't really work that way. I judge the trilogy as a whole. Yeah, just like any college nowadays, my college had a job placement program so that you could be placed at a job right after graduation. And one of their big contracts or whatever was with the CIA. And this would have been, the Florida branch of the CIA or whatever. And I would have been doing IT work for them, which would have meant that I would have access to classified documents because I'd be working with data and all this stuff. And I went and listened to their spiel and, did their little interview. And then I told them that it wasn't really for me. I probably should have taken it because I'd probably be making over $100,000 by now and have absolutely kick-ass government benefits. But, at the time, I didn't want it, and so I ended up going with a stock brokerage instead. I took a job with a stock brokerage, and wouldn't you know it, part of me getting hired on by this stock brokerage was passing a background check by the CIA. So, yeah. Ever been offered to work for area? No. Hi, Seventh. What's up? Have you watched Kong versus? No, it's not on HBO Max yet. Doesn't hit HBO Max till next week. It hits HBO Max on the 31st. So like next Wednesday, I think. I know a guy that worked at Area 51. He told me it wasn't uncommon for anyone to be on that base for more than 24 hours. Well, that's one of the things about Area 51 is no one just drives up to Area 51 to go to work. They fly them into Area 51 from an airport somewhere out in California, I think it is. Uh, but there isn't anything there. I had a friend who was a U.S. Marshal, and he used to work for the military, and he told me there was never any aliens or anything out there. All there ever was top secret experimental planes, and that even the top secret experimental planes that they did have, most of them aren't there anymore. They were moved to this other location farther up north in the country somewhere. He said there was still stuff that went on at Area 51, but after they would build things out and test them out at that airstrip, they would get moved to this other location. So he said even if there had been alien wreckage, it would have been moved out of Area 51 decades ago. Do you think Sony will introduce some service in the future to purchase their old games? I think they're just gonna revamp PS Now. Thoughts on Rogue Galaxy? It's a great game. It's level 5, made by Level 5. Same folks that did Ni no Kuni and the Dark Cloud series. It's a good game. We're at the 30-minute mark, everybody. 30 minutes. We have had 0 donations. 0 donations. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, 30 minutes left. Seventh, do you think most UFOs we see are military craft? Yeah. I'd say 99% of the stuff that people see are either atmospheric anomalies or just some top secret military test flight shit. I just don't really buy into it. I've never seen anything that would lead me to believe that there's literal flying saucers with little green men flying around. Little grays or whatever. Never seen anything that would convince me of that. Not at all. We got 30 minutes left, folks. Keep the question coming. Otherwise, it's going to be a very boring last 30 minutes. Let's see. Have I bought anything else that's exciting? Only other thing that I bought is I finally got the remaining equipment that I needed for upgrading the quality of the songs that I produce. So if you see this box sitting leaning against the wall there, that's a microphone stand for this, which is a Shure SM58. My buddy Jeff J.A. Allen, I told him I wanted a better microphone for recording vocals, and he recommended this one. And so I got a microphone stand for it, and I got me a little pop filter for it, so I'll have better quality vocals the next time I record a song. Do you think Returnal will be good? It looks good, and I mean, I haven't really played a Housemarque game that I didn't like, so Seventh, do you know if the Christian Bible ever described anything about creatures like the Wendigo? Closest thing to that would probably be not. It wouldn't be part of most Christian Bibles except for maybe the Ethiopian Christian Bible, and that would be some of the creatures described in the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch has all sorts of weird monsters and creatures and stuff in it. It's literally the Lord of the Rings of the Bible. Do you think modern horror movies that came out after 2000 are scary? Well, again, I'm desensitized to horror movies, so they don't really scare me. But, of the horror movies that I've seen over the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s, there haven't been that many that at least gave me the creepy vibe. There's been The Ring, The Grudge, Insidious, some parts of The Conjuring 1 and 2, and that's been pretty much it. Everything else has been, for the most part, crap. I will say that I do like House of a Thousand Corpses, but only because it reminds me so much of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which I really love. But again, not scary. Do you think wrestling should end or be reformed? I don't think wrestling should end. I just think that they need to rethink things to try to, re-spark interest in it. This is certainly not the era to try to bring back the Attitude Era, because it would just get, the blue check marks all in a tizzy. And they'd be, screaming to cancel it every time a new episode aired. Do you think Cheeto chips are gross? I like Cheetos, but, they're not very good for you, so I haven't ate any in a long time. But I used to love them. I used to love Cheetos. Who's your favorite modern day movie director? I can't really say that I have one. I am someone who likes Zack Snyder's work. That being said, I didn't like Sucker Punch at all. So even him, he's not someone that everything that he makes, I just instantly love it. That's not been the case. I like James Wan. I like the Conjuring movies, and I liked the Aquaman film. I like James Wan a lot. So far, I like the Russo brothers. And I still like Spielberg. I like Jon Favreau. I think Jon Favreau is a good director. "24 minutes left, folks. Y'all got to come more correct than this. I mean, if y'all don't have anything else to ask, I can, I'm happy to shut it off now. I can go do something else. I'm here for y'all. I got a kink in my neck. Do you think Snyder Cut's the last time we'll see Henry Cavill as Supes? I hope not. I hope that this, kind of clues Warner Brothers into the fact that people want the Snyderverse, and that we get at least, Justice League 2 and 3, if not a Man of Steel 2. And, I'm not against they doing a the Black Superman, the one from Universe 23 or whatever. I'm not opposed to that at all. I'd like to see that film, but I think Cavill has done a a good job, and that I think he deserves the chance to at least get a trilogy out of that character. Aside from Batman vs. Superman and Justice League, which he was barely in. Yes, I love the Snyder Cut. $5 from President PlayStation. Darn, I forgot to make a Streamlabs account. I'll get you next week. I'm on mobile now. Okay, no problem. Do you think Cyberpunk would get back on PlayStation Store if they initiate all the fixes and actually get the PlayStation 5 version out, which they still haven't yet? Then there's a possibility of that. Sure. And again, thank you for the $5. Thoughts on Goof Troop video games? I've played that one on SNES a little bit, the one that's kind of a puzzle game. I didn't really care for it all that much. That's the only Goof Troop game I've played. I don't know if there's other ones besides that one. I know there wasn't one on NES. Did you like the remake of The Hills Have Eyes better than the original? No. No. It was okay, but, you know, I just didn't like it as well as Wes Craven's original version. Not by a long shot. But then again, I wasn't a huge fan of the original either, because it was just, you know, mutants in the desert. You know, if you've seen Wrong Turn, you've more or less seen The Hills Have Eyes. It's just it takes place in the woods instead of the desert. 7th, did you ever hear the rumor of the Duffer Brothers ripped off a project called Montauk? No. No, I have not heard that, and I don't know what Montauk is. If anything, when I watch Stranger Things, it just reminds me of Super 8, that J.J. Abrams movie from several years ago. That's what I think of when I watch Stranger Things, is it's just Super 8, the show. Which did you like better, BioShock Infinite or The Last of Us? BioShock Infinite. I just like the gameplay better. Montauk was apparently what Stranger Things was supposed to be like. Did it actually get made, or was it that they ripped off the script or concept of something that was never actually produced, Ultra Steel? Do you think Uncharted 5 will be Salmon's? I don't know what Uncharted 5 will be. I would imagine that it's going to be made by that new Sony San Diego studio that they haven't officially named yet. Who knows? Maybe it's like a prequel that's some adventure that Nathan Drake went on that's between Uncharted 1, 2, 3, and 4. You know, they could fit all sorts of adventures in between those games without having to go to, you know, it being just Sam and Sully. Thoughts on Superman and Lois? I like it so far. I really like the character development in it. I think the acting is really good. I think the special effects are top notch for something that's just a WB show. The production value is way better than the Arrowverse stuff that came before it, especially Supergirl. And I just think it has a more serious, less hokey tone to it. So, you know, I haven't watched the most recent episode because I've just been busy watching other stuff. But I do like the show, yeah. Did you like The Fugitive? Oh, with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones? Yeah. I didn't care too much for the sequel, U.S. Marshals or whatever it was called. The one with Tommy Lee Jones and I think Wesley Snipes was in it. U.S. Marshals. I didn't care for it too much, but I liked The Fugitive all right. But then again, I'd seen reruns of the TV show that it was based on when I was a kid. You know, that old black and white show. I think it was black and white. I can't say for sure I watched it on a black and white TV when I was a kid, but it, you know, there was a TV show that it was based on that was called The Fugitive. You know, and every week You'd see him wandering from town to town, trying to hunt down the one-armed man that killed his wife or whatever and blamed him for it. That's where that joke from Cable Guy came from. You know, it wasn't me, it was the one-armed man. It's referencing the old Fugitive TV show. Thoughts on Super Metroid? Tremendous game. Wish I had it, but I don't. That's one of the SNES games I'm missing from my collection. Have you seen Demon Slayer? Yeah, it's good anime. Do you like The Flash on CW? Not really. Haven't really gotten into it. I watched a few episodes of it and it just wasn't gripping me. Don't know why. It just wasn't. Did you like the Orville? Oh yeah, I loved the Orville. It felt just like Star Trek The Next Generation, but with jokes. I liked it a hell of a lot better than Star Trek Discovery. I mean, yeah, the effects and everything in Star Trek Discovery look a lot better than what the Orville has, but the Orville felt more like real Star Trek. Do you think Sony is the laziest out of the three when it comes to gaming? No. Do you hate Microsoft trying to kill physical games quicker? I'm not happy about it, but, you know, hey, it's not like you guys didn't know it was coming. I told y'all about it 10 years ago. 7th, it turns out Montauk was a 2012 indie film that Charlie Kessler made. He claimed the Duffer Brothers stole his ideas after apparently pitching it to them in 2014. I'll look it up, Ultra Steel. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. I don't even know who Charlie Kessler is. Or at least, if I have seen it, it's been so long ago since I've seen it that I've forgotten about it. According to this, it was just let me see here. Let me see. For years, conspiracy theories have surrounded the Montauk area, from government projects to something deeper and more supernatural. Now, using files unearthed from the archives of the Suffolk County Police Department, bear witness to the latest and most shocking incident in the history of the area. Well, that sounds like more like a conspiracy theory-laden documentary than it does a scripted show. But I guess it's scripted because it has actors playing different roles. I don't see where it's available on any streaming services. Oh well. Oh well. Do you think Microsoft will turn to PC gaming? I think eliminating what we currently understand as the console market is one of their goals, yes. Ultra Steel, I wouldn't be able to say for sure without actually watching it, and as far as I could see, I don't think it's on any of the streaming services. Did you watch the Hodge twins on YouTube? No. 7th, did Nintendo die after the GameCube? Nintendo died, really, at least as far as what Nintendo used to be, with the N64. N64 is when it started to go downhill, and now they're just a handheld company. I loved Akira. I'm as impressed and entertained with Akira now as if I was the first time I saw it when I was a teenager. What was your impression of the original Blair Witch Project when it came out? I thought it was more hype than an actual good movie. I thought it was mostly boring and just like three assholes walking around in the woods. I thought it was really boring. What if Sony had said yes to the Sony disc-based console? Then, if that had happened, then the PlayStation never would have come out. And if the PlayStation had never come out, then likely there would be no Xbox, because Xbox was created to compete directly with the PlayStation because of how well it did. Microsoft didn't like a game console taking that much of the gaming market, the home gaming market. And that's what inspired them to get into the console business to begin with. So if Sony had been allowed to just make that combo drive for Nintendo, then likely we'd still be looking at a Nintendo versus Sega thing to this day, because the market wouldn't have exploded the way it did, and it'd still be, if a console sells 50 million units, that's a huge success. I'm not a big fan of Eli Roth, no. 12 minutes left. These Xbox guys, they can talk about what Microsoft is doing and this and that and the other all they want. If the PlayStation 1 hadn't happened, none of it would exist. Period. Period. Do you think gaming would have died? No, I just don't think that I don't think console gaming would be as big today if Nintendo hadn't screwed Sony over. Because prior to the PlayStation, if a console sold 40 million units, wow, that's a tremendous success. And we're not talking nationally, we're talking worldwide. 44 million units, oh my God, it's a phenomenon. PlayStation 1 comes out, 100 plus million units. Or right at 100 million. It's like 99, 100, 101 million, somewhere around in there. First console to ever do that. Currently, I think the Borderlands movie is going to be a shit show, but you never can tell. Why didn't Microsoft ever make a handheld? Probably because they tried their hand at making their version of the iPod with the Zune, and it tanked, so they weren't about to try going up against the Game Boy. $10 minutes left, folks. 10 minutes left. We are $45 away from the 10 o'clock extension goal. Isn't Kevin Hart playing Claptrap? I don't know who's playing Claptrap, and I don't care. I just have no faith or confidence in it, no matter who's starring in it. How many times has a first-person shooter been successfully made into a film? The only one that I can think of is Doom, and that one sucked. Hardcore Henry doesn't count because it wasn't based on an actual video game. How different would games be if it was still Nintendo and Sega? Who knows? I just don't think it would be the financial phenomenon that it is now. Gaming, in fact, gaming might still be more segmented, where on consoles, Japanese games still rule the roost, and if you wanted to play Western RPGs and stuff like that, you were mostly still playing on PC. Hard to say. But the gaming landscape would be a lot different had Sony not gone on their own and started PlayStation, because that's what got the ball rolling on the console world that we live in now. No, I hated Other M. Thought it was a piece of crap. Absolute piece of crap. What would have happened if Nintendo Switch failed? If the Switch had come out and bombed, they probably would have gone the way of Sega, because they were in rough financial straits after the Wii U. The Wii U did a lot of damage to them, a lot of financial damage. So, the Switch really saved that company. They did the only thing that they could do, which was to take their line of business that was still popular, which was handhelds, and merge their console business into it, and convince everybody to buy a handheld and think it's a console. That's why they're still in the hardware business. Because financially, they just simply would not be able to go back to trying to compete power-wise with Sony or Microsoft as far as hardware costs. They wouldn't be able to do it. The way they're able to stay in business is by making cheaper hardware that is the only place where you can play their, first-party content. The majority of people out there, they're not buying the Switch to play multiplats. They're buying the Switch to play Mario, Zelda, Metroid. Well, not Metroid yet. Smash Brothers, etc. Ultra Steel, I don't think they're going to go back. I think they're going to stick the way they are. I think Sony's success was due to their strategy to aim at a more adult audience. Isn't it inevitable that someone would have come along and did the same thing? No, because there was already adult content on the Saturn. There was most of the adult style games that were on the PlayStation were on the Saturn, and if the PlayStation had never come out, all of those games that never made it out of Japan for the Saturn would have made it over to the Saturn, and again, the Sega, it would have been Sega versus Nintendo, and the same argument of Sega's where the grown-ups play would still be going on. Do you consider Nintendo better than Xbox? I think their first-party content is better than Xbox. I'd rather sit and play Zelda and Mario than play Gears of War or Halo. I liked the first two Halo games. I've never liked Gears of War. Sega should have done what Nintendo did. What? Become a handheld company? Sega wasn't in the same position. They were in a much worse financial position, and the technology wasn't there to make a handheld that could plug into a TV and act like a console. I mean, you could do it with the Nomad, but not when all the games were CD based. The technology just wasn't there for Sega at that time to do what Nintendo did to stay alive. Just wasn't possible. Yes, I remember Stone Fox Media. God. 7th, if you could be a college professor, what subject would you love teaching? Pop culture history. I mean, shit, they teach damn near everything else in college now. Why not just a pop culture history class? Today we're going to be discussing the history of Plastic Man. Today we're going to be discussing the history of Saturday morning cartoons. There's going to be a quiz on Rubik's The Amazing Cube. I'd do that all day. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to doing some kind of an IT class, teaching an IT class. Like, I wouldn't want to do like entry level computing, because God, you'd get complete noobs in there that didn't know how to do nothing. But maybe teaching a course on IT security or something like that. But I wouldn't enjoy it. It would be boring to me. I don't have a problem getting up and talking in front of a live audience. And teaching is part of my current job. But if I was going to have my choice, it would be something that's actually fun for me that I like talking about rather than just what I do as a career. Why didn't the Vita damage Sony financial status like the Wii U did? Because the Vita wasn't their primary market. It was their secondary market. It was the reverse of what Nintendo were doing. When the Wii came out, their biggest money maker was the 3DS. When the Vita came out, their biggest money maker was the PS3. Do you think that upcoming Bethesda games will be on a PlayStation console? Hard to say right now. We'll have to see what's going to happen. What was the best game? Spencer says they're going to be exclusive, but that they're going to fulfill contract negotiations. Well, we don't know what contracts have and haven't been signed insofar as Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout 5, etc., etc. We don't know. So it's hard to say. But I would say anything outside of, the two timed exclusives and possibly Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be exclusive, is how I would assume based on the recent interview that Spencer gave. What was the best year in gaming in your humble opinion? I don't know. I couldn't really narrow that down. There's been several years where it just felt like every time I turned around, there was a great game I wanted to play. Do you think PSVR 2 will be backwards compatible? I would assume so. I don't know if I agree with you on that one, Shadow. At least based on the interview that Spencer gave recently. Do you know PS4 almost didn't happen because they lost $5 billion on PS3? They lost a lot of money. But by the time the end of that generation came around, even before then, Sony were making money on the PS3. In fact, the PS3 was the primary money maker for Sony outside of their semiconductor business. And so it was inevitable that there was going to be a PS4 because they weren't going to shoot themselves in the foot. So you're not entirely accurate on that one, Master Millions. That being said, it's 9 o'clock. We had $5 donated. We're $45 short of the goal. So this is where I'm going to have to cut you guys off. Be thinking of everything that you want to ask me about next week. If any of you have any movie recommendations of a movie you would like me to watch and give my opinion on it, send it to me on Twitter. And I will see you guys back then next week. Same 7th time, same 7th channel.